Erik Panzer, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you. It's good to be back and looking forward to it.
Yeah, and so this time, really interested and really excited to dive into some of these topics around performance, but deep dive into single topics in these mini podcasts.
Yeah. No, hopefully we can get in some good areas and find some good gold nuggets for you and your
Fantastic.
listeners.
And so we want to start off with identity today, Erik. And we hear the word identity a lot in sport and in youth sport as well. Most people often attach the word identity to being an athlete within this space. How would you define that more broadly?
Yeah, I don't know about a specific definition, but identity kind of is a makeup of everything of like who we are, our experiences, where we come from, our families, those things, the things that we believe in, the values that we have, these all shape our identity and what kind of comes across in life from who we are. So if we're understanding identity, it's all about understanding who we are, where we've come from, what makes us unique. So those experiences that we've had, those are the types of things that I would kind of assign or give to identity.
Cool. And so in your role as performance coach, I know it's an important part of what you do. Why is it so important? What do you see when someone develops a strong identity?
There's so many different reasons for why. It can give a lot of confidence. It can just help people understand who they are and why they behave in a certain way. And I think that's a really important one, especially with young people today, is understanding why they behave in a certain way. So understanding why they might think of something. It could come from their experiences growing up, could come from their experiences with their family, it could come from a belief that they've developed in younger years, and that influences why they behave in a certain way. And so being able to understand what drives you, what like makes you and shapes you, can give you greater confidence in being that person. But a lot of times there's a lot of masks getting put on because they want to impress people, or they think they have to be a certain way, or they have to do a certain thing. But when we can go inside and be our true authentic self, we're in a much stronger position to perform as well as just be the person that we want to be, away from the performance as well. And so it's really figuring out who you are and who that person is, and then allowing that person to be expressed through performance if it's in a sporting sense.
Absolutely. And so you can see a difference between those people, those athletes who have a strong identity and a strong sense of self, as opposed to those who don't.
Yeah, generally you would. There'd be, and it's potentially not visual, but it is something that if you were to discuss or talk about, you'd be able to gain an understanding of, okay, they've done that because of this, or they've done that because they believe in this, and things like that. So there's an association between behavior and beliefs and those types of things.
You're a performance coach now, but you've been a high level athlete yourself. Did you do this yourself at some stage and feel the difference?
Yeah, I've done different things, and we might get into some of the other topics. But I've done a lot around purpose and understanding purpose. But when I look at identity, I think for me it's just something that's ever evolving, and so figuring out who that person is. And I had different experiences that allowed me to do that. When I left New Zealand for the first time to go to the States for university, I got to reflect on, well, who actually am I? I'm just this kid from New Zealand in this massive place in America. And so different experiences gave me the opportunity to kind of reflect on my identity and who I was. And then I also had different psychologists that I'd worked with that would help kind of navigate that as well.
It's an interesting one, mentioning the psychologist, I think, and having someone there to, I guess, maybe step you through a process or help guide you. Do you think that's important? And I know that we have, the other side of this is that we have a lot of parents listening. And I guess one of the questions that comes up is, with identity, you're the parent, you're raising the child, and I guess a lot of identity will come from that history, from the family, maybe not just parents, but grandparents and other generations. It might come maybe through experiences in the home as you grow older. Is that something that a parent can help with later on, that identity, or do you think it needs to be someone like a psychologist, like yourself, a performance coach, to help guide that?
I think the best person or some of the best people to do it are family members. Those stories that have connected the generations, the stories of challenge or perseverance that your grandparents went through, they can feed strongly into who you're becoming. Knowing that there's people that you're related to along the way who have survived world wars or survived whatever it might be. So I think within your own family unit, there is the power of storytelling is huge to help understand identity and understand who you are and where you've come from. I remember when I was here last time, and I think off mic we spoke about it takes like thousands of people for you to be right here, right? So for me to be right here, it took my two parents meeting, and for them to have come about, it took their two parents each. So there's four, and like so. The amount of people that have played a part in the journey, and just recognizing that, I think it's really powerful to understand who you are and where you've come from, and some of those stories. And that's why the strength of the Māori culture and connecting to whakapapa is becoming more and more seen around the world. Of it's simply just understanding the lineage that you've come from, and what your people have gone through. And I think that feeds strongly into who you become. But yeah, a psychologist, a mentor can help unearth this as well. But just getting those stories, hearing the stories from your grandparents or whoever it might be, can provide pieces of it as well.
That's really interesting. And some families have a lot of positives to be able to pull out. Some families have negatives. If you've got some negative stories in there, do you just try and focus on some of the strengths or the positives within that lineage? Or does that make it tougher for that person who's trying to build that identity?
It's all part of it, right? And so you can put the label of negative or positive, good or bad on it, but it's an experience. Maybe it's an experience where a parent spent some time in prison, for example.
Yep.
What lessons have come from that? And so if it is considered a negative experience, well, what have you learned from that can then shape future generations? So yeah, I wouldn't necessarily be like share good, share bad, share experiences and the lessons that have come with it, or what character did you develop from that experience, and then that some of those characteristics can follow through in the line.
Yeah, I like that. And I know that we've talked about this before with you. You've got a really interesting story from one of your relatives within the war that you can kind of bring through, can't you?
Yeah.
Can you share that one? That's really neat for people to hear.
I assume it's this one, but during World War II, so my father's Dutch, and his father was hiding during World War II, I believe, and he hid under a stairwell in the complete dark and was painting. And during those times, he painted pictures that he'd seen from around the town and things like that. And now we've inherited these beautiful oil paintings that have like the date of 44 or 42 on them, and my grandfather's signature and things like that. And so that's just a piece of connection for us to be like, that was something that he went through, and to go through that can give me certain beliefs or certain ideas about life. And so, yeah, I find that a really powerful mode of connection.
Yeah, and I think especially for youth, being able to attach certain things like resilience and strength and survival and overcoming through a story like that, you attach that to your Panzer name, and that's who we are as people. That can be really strong for kids, and in that storytelling sense.
Yeah, and I guess even today, like, it's a shame some kids grow up without parents or without that type of system. So then it's, where can you get those stories and things? And there's still the ability to gather information and understanding. It's just they live a different life if they've been raised in foster home or things like that. And so just being able to learn all the stories of the different people and then how that shapes you, and that doesn't define you either. Like you can use that as power of, I don't want to go down that track, or I'd rather be this type of person as well. So yeah, there's so many layers to it, but just being able to connect to your past is powerful and a really important piece of identity.
Yeah, cool. When I want to talk about identity in terms of sport, are there some negatives around forming an identity of I'm a particular sports person and a particular athlete, and that can be damaging when you attach yourself too closely to a sport?
I think there are challenges with that, absolutely. If we connect our self-worth to being an athlete, and we connect being an athlete to our performance and our performance to a result, then we feel like we're a failure if we haven't won. So I think sport puts not unfair, but unrealistic expectations on identity. And so if we align our whole identity as a tennis player, and how often can you win every single game, then if you don't win, do you consider yourself a failure? And so just being able to kind of understand that sport's something that you do, and it's not your whole identity. There's so much more, I would say, to your identity. There's the athlete, there's the son or daughter, there's the brother or sister, there's the friend. Like there's so many other elements to the identity piece, and what that can do is help even out the self-worth piece and know that you're coming back to something more than just, I played tennis and that's all there is. It's like, I'm playing tennis for 2 hours today, and then for the rest of the day, I'm just Erik. And so there's a human behind the athlete, and making sure that we can establish that or define that human and understand that human will allow us to be the athlete in a better place. And then when we leave being in the athlete and coming back to the human, we can do that like better as well.
So the sport can still be part of your identity, but it's not all encompassing and it's not everything.
Totally. Yeah. It plays a role. Like you spend so much time training, playing, competing, thinking about it. You eat deliberately for it. You sleep deliberately. So a lot of your life is dedicated to the sport, but there's still so much more to who you are. And like, I guess when I was in a full-time pro environment, I'd split my day up into 3 8-hour blocks, and 8 hours of my day was dedicated to football. 8 hours to sleep, and then 8 hours to whatever else I wanted. And so I was able to be the footballer for those 8 hours and really focus on that, but then I could be who I needed to be or who I wanted to be away from that as well, and it didn't engulf everything of my life.
So you're sort of compartmentalizing it in a way.
Yeah.
Awesome. I want to dive into just a little bit around the parent aspect of forming identity. Are there some things, maybe some subtle mistakes that parents, maybe even coaches might make that unintentionally kind of narrow down someone's identity? Within that sporting realm, I guess.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's interesting. I'm trying to think. I wouldn't blame parents. They don't know either. They're just trying to do their best. Quite often, they're just trying to do their best for their child. Same with the coach, is just trying to do the best for the athlete. But I think it's just being aware of there is, like, when the person shows up to training, like, they've got a whole life outside of that. And so then can we connect a little bit with that? It's like, how are you today? Like, what did you do today? What's going on in your life? And then knowing that, okay, life outside is okay. We can push harder at training and things like that. And the same with, I guess, parents as well, is just understanding that, like, they're at football or tennis or whatever it might be for a certain amount of time, but like, take them away from it and give them the opportunity to explore other things, explore who they are outside of the sport as well, instead of just being like, this is all there is to life. I believe strongly in that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we've all seen those coaches that can develop strong relationships, and generally they develop players better, they have better teams, better cultures, and all of that. I'm just wondering, are there some specific things, if you're a parent raising a child, that you might say to them, ways you might frame certain moments to help them be true to themselves and I guess develop that authentic identity that you want?
Yeah, I think like a question that can be asked at any stage is like, are you being who you want to be? But then that comes from understanding who that person is that you want to be. So you as the athlete has to do a bit of work to get to a place of knowing, I want to be this person, this is what's important to me, this is who I am. And so that then when you know that, and when you can share that with a parent or a coach, then the coach or the parent can be able to challenge them if they potentially behave in a way that is veering away from that person that they say they want to be. And so, yeah, are you being who you want to be is I think a good question in that sense, just to kind of hold accountability to your behaviors and whether they're aligning with who you say you are and what you want to be.
Yeah, I like that. And that dives right into their actions too, doesn't it? You know, you're like, yeah, going to go and use that tonight. One of the things we often sort of talk about is, rather than parents telling kids what to do, doing it themselves so the kids just see it come to life naturally. Is this something that would be really powerful here in terms of a parent having a strong identity themselves, but maybe vocalizing why they're doing some of these things sometimes and staying true to themselves for their children?
Yeah, I think, I mean, a lot of that child-parent relationship stems from modeling behavior. And so the parent models certain behavior, the child is more likely to model that behavior.
Yeah.
So if a parent can have a clear sense of who they are, then it's a lot easier for them to share that and for them to help the child to navigate that as well. Yeah.
Cool. So I want to dive into that question around age then. Is there a certain age you get to and your child is really striving to be a good athlete? Perhaps you can see that maybe they need to work on some of these things, that you'll go outside the home to look for some help there? Is there an age that's maybe too young and an age that might be kind of perfect in terms of they're cognitively able to understand the help they need, but also think through some of those processes that they might be working through with someone like yourself?
All through childhood, they can learn, right? And the parents can drip feed throughout childhood from 5 to 10 to 12 kind of area. But then a lot of kids go through a change in identity. It's not a change in identity, but a change in environment, which then challenges their identity when they go from elementary or primary or intermediate into high school.
There's a lot of pressures. Like my boys are in that high school space now, and we're seeing it. One's 14, one's 17. There are lots of different pressures, and the pressures almost change year by year through that high school, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's an interesting time.
Yeah, and so in that space, year 9, year 10, everyone's trying to figure out where they fit socially, where they fit athletically, all that stuff. They're trying to make friends. And so I think that's a great time for exploration, to understand, like to begin to challenge again. Like previously they may have thought, this is who I am and this is what I believe in and things like that. But their beliefs might start changing or shifting. Values might start changing or shifting. Different experiences will happen as well. And so, when you get into that 13, 14, 15 age bracket, you're beginning to understand more and more about life and understanding more about yourself and how you behave and what that's connected to. Those teenage years are often where a lot of challenges arise because they're trying to navigate so much. That can be a time when exploring additional support is helpful, especially because they get to an age where the parents' ideas or thoughts may not be respected anymore, and they will listen to someone else.
Yeah, interesting. I want to dive into on-field persona and off-field persona and how that works in with identity and true self. We hear about athletes who can be incredibly kind and loving off the field and almost create a different persona so that when they step over that white line, they can compete at a high level because they're quite different environments, right? How does authentic self and building that one identity work in with that sort of concept?
Yeah, it might be past my pay grade. I think being able to, like, white line fever or whatever you want to call it, having that second kind of type of person, having that second being, I don't think it's a bad thing at all. It's just being really clear on this is how I am here, and then this is how I am here.
Yeah.
And for some people it works,
Yeah.
absolutely. For others it doesn't. You're seeing a lot more compassion and empathy in sport these days.
A lot more. It's really interesting.
And that's, I think, more of a merging of both rather than being separate.
Yep.
Whereas some people can still do the separate piece, like boxers and things like that. Combat sports is really, you have to go into a really deep zone to put your body on the line. And so they're able to differentiate quite well. But I would say, yeah, once again, you got to understand yourself though. You got to know who you are
It all comes back to that.
to be able to have clarity in both.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really interesting concept, and I know, like, within a football world that we both love, and you watch some of the highest level football, in the past, players get completely taken out, and that player would almost celebrate taking them out or would just walk off. Nowadays, you see a lot more of them. They'll compete to their utmost level, but then they'll pick them up and things like that. It has changed quite a lot.
Yeah. I think the idea of sport, I wouldn't say it's shifted, but everyone's got different ideas of it. But especially when you are competing directly against someone else, you need them to be your best. And so it's almost not easier, but it's like you want them to be at their best to bring out the best in you. So you're not going to just kick the crap out of them and laugh and whatever. You're going to help them to be their best so that you can be your best, and so you can compete at the highest level possible. So I think there is, in some sports, there's getting to that, like watching tennis, for example, and they have an incredible rally and then someone smacks an amazing winner. Often they turn around and give them the appreciation that the other person or the opposition is helping you to be the best that you can be. I think that's being more recognized rather than it's me versus you and I'm going to beat you, sort of thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. And I think it also does come back to what you said about staying true to yourself, right? Like, I can compete at this ultimate level, but I can still celebrate others because that's who I am. I'm still a good person. Before we finish up around identity, are there some practical steps that a family member, a mother, a father, an auntie and uncle, a grandparent could take with an athlete, maybe in their teens, trying to work on their identity to help them perform better?
Yeah, I mean, I would take that back and just try and help them understand their identity. The performance piece, like, that potentially could be a natural occurrence, but it wouldn't be like, do this to help your identity, to help you perform.
Yeah.
It would be more so just exploring the identity and things like what makes you unique. And when you get to the teenage years, like, there are you can visually see differences. You might start seeing differences in behaviors, and you can definitely see differences in experiences. So then it's like, what makes you unique? And just understanding that. Or what are some experiences that have shaped who you've become and why you do that? And it might be travel experiences. It might be trauma experiences. There are so many different types of experiences, but just, understanding what makes you unique and what are some experiences that are contributing to who you're becoming and why you do certain things would be two good questions, I would say, to
Awesome. And is it more helpful to celebrate some of those things that you might see that make them unique, or is it more powerful to help them reflect themselves on that, or is it a little bit of balance of both?
I would say balance. Absolutely, the reflection piece is really strong, but being able to celebrate, like telling your child that I love how you stand up for yourself, or I love how that you hold the door open for strangers,
Yeah.
and just really like leaning into that and recognizing a characteristic that is unique to you, or that's unique to your child.
Yeah, so it might be they've said they want to be a brave person, that's part of their identity, and you've seen a brave moment on the field, could be off the field, and just recognizing that.
Yeah. So that once again comes back to knowing who you are and sharing that with your parent or your coach, and then the coach and parent being able to really feedback when they do see those moments. You say you wanted to show courage. You showed courage today by putting your hand up in class and answering a question when you've been scared of what your classmates might think about you. That's courage. I love that.
Yeah.
It's like doing the hard thing. So yeah, being able to celebrate that is powerful.
Yeah, but it all starts, like you said, with being able to have those discussions and share who you want to be. Relationships, communication, everything comes back to those, doesn't it? All right, we're going to finish up with identity. One last thing before we leave. If you could leave one message with athletes about the power identity off the field, what would it be?
Just know who you are and like chase that person, chase that better version of that person. I think that's really powerful, because you're an athlete for a certain period of time in your life, and you've got so much more life to it. So being able to know who you are with and without sport, and then like just chasing that version of yourself.
I love that. Perfect way to finish.
Cool.